Hi everyone, welcome to today's third grade informative writing lesson. Today we're working in section 2, lesson 25. My name is Mrs. Snyder and I'm really happy to be here with you guys today and I can't wait to get started. So let's jump right in. Before we get started with today's lesson, let's do a quick review on what makes up an ITC outline. An ITC outline includes an introduction and a conclusion. This is what our prompt is asking for us to write about. The ITC outline also includes 3 big topics. Those are our T1, T2, and T3 topics. Each one of those topics includes an A and a B subtopic. Those A and B subtopics are our details or examples that help to support those big 3 topics. Now for today's lesson, our objective is to learn how to write the introduction paragraph of an informative essay. I'm so excited for today's lesson because it's the start of writing our first informative essay. So let's go ahead and get started. Just to review what an introduction paragraph looks like. This introduction paragraph is the very first paragraph of your essay. There are many different ways that you can structure your introduction paragraph, and we're going to dig a little deeper into a few of those ways today. The key here is to make sure that you introduce the controlling idea and the topics that will be discussed in your essay. Now, since this is the first paragraph of your essay, this is where we have to grab our reader's attention and get them to want to read more of our essay. So we have to make sure that we provide our reader with the controlling idea, what the prompt is really asking for us to write about. We also need to make sure that we include those 3 topics so that the reader has an idea of what each body paragraph is going to include throughout our essay. Now, I mentioned before that there are many different ways that you can structure your introduction paragraph. This is one way that we can structure our introduction paragraph. So we can introduce our reader with a hook. This hook is how we grab our reader's attention, how we get them to want to read more of our essay. We also include our 3 topics, and then we have a closing statement. Now, this introduction paragraph is short, simple, and really gets our reader ready to read our essay. Another way that you can structure your introduction paragraph is by hooking your reader, grabbing their attention, identifying your 3 topics, and you can also take those 3 topics and split them into 2 to 3 different sentences. So in the first example, if we had our hook, we had our 3 topics sentence, and we had our closing statement, that's 3 sentences. If you structure your introduction paragraph this way, you're going to have more than 3 sentences, and that's okay. Either way is fine as long as you have that controlling idea and you've listed your 3 topics. Now, who remembers what a hook is? That hook is a really important component of our essay because that hook is what's going to catch our reader's attention. We want to get them hooked into reading our entire essay. Now, there were a few different ways that we could hook our reader. Some of those ways are mentioned right here on your screen. We can ask a question. We could restate the prompt. We could even make a statement about the topic. Some ones that aren't listed here are onomatopoeia. Or we could even include a riddle. Those are all different ways that we can hook our reader, grab their attention so that they're ready and invested in reading our essay. Now let's do a little practice. Like I've mentioned before, it's important that you are keeping your materials in some type of writer's notebook or writer's folder. like I said, we're going to refer back to these materials throughout many lessons. So for example, today, you're going to want to refer back to that lesson that we created, the ITC outline on 4th of July. You're going to want to take out those passage sets and your ITC outline for today's practice. Now, after you've read those articles, you are asked to plan for the prompt. After reading the articles, think about what you learned about 4th of July. Now write to inform your reader about the 4th of July. And we created that ITC outline the other day. And if you don't remember, that ITC outline looks like this. We identified our introduction and our conclusion as 4th of July. We then chose 3 big topics that were mentioned in our passage set, and we also included those A and B subtopics, those examples and details to help support each one of our big topics. So go ahead, gather your materials. Again, you will need your 4th of July passage sets and your 4th of July ITC outline. When you're ready, go ahead and press play and we'll get started with today's lesson. Okay, now hopefully you have all of your materials out and ready to go. And we're going to work through creating an introduction paragraph based on this outline together. So who can remember what the first sentence is in our introduction? Think about it for a second. Yeah, it's a hook. We have to hook our reader. So how can we hook our reader to give our reader more information about 4th of July? Well, we could use onomatopoeia. We could ask a question. We could restate the prompt. What else could we do? Well, if we asked a question, we could say something like, how much do you really know about the 4th of July? Or we could say, did you know that we are celebrating America's freedom when we celebrate 4th of July? Those are both examples of great questions we could use to hook our reader. Let's say that we just wanted to restate the prompt. We would simply just say, there are many things to learn about 4th of July. And that's restating the prompt so our reader has an idea of what they're going to read. We could also make a statement. July 4th is the best holiday of the year. Or, celebrating July 4th is so much fun. That's a statement. We're still responding to the prompt, but we're making a statement while doing so. So for this particular essay, I think I'm going to hook my reader by simply asking a question. So I'm going to say something like, how much do you really know about the 4th of July? Now you'll notice that I wrote my hook in red, and that's because I'm going to color code my introduction paragraph. That way you can clearly identify all 3 parts that are needed in our introduction paragraph. So I color coded my hook in red. How much do you really know about the 4th of July? So that was the first part of our introduction paragraph. Who remembers what the second part is of our introduction paragraph? It's our 3 topics. We need to make sure that we're listing our 3 topics. Now remember, there are a couple of ways we could do this. We could take one sentence to list our 3 topics, or we might want to break apart our 3 topics into 2 or 3 sentences. Whichever you're most comfortable with, as long as you're keeping it clear and the controlling idea is still there in your introduction paragraph. Now, for my 3 topics, I'm going to write them in blue. And I'm going to say something like, on the 4th of July, we honor America's freedom. Okay, so if we go back to our plan, we had freedom as our first topic. Our second topic is celebrations, and our third is activities. So since I've identified freedom as my first topic, I'm going to say something about celebrations next. So I could say, have extravagant celebrations. And then my last one was about activities. So I need to include activities as my third topic. And do fun outdoor activities. Period. So there I have my 3 topics that I've identified in blue. So for this introduction paragraph, I chose to keep my 3 topics in one sentence. So I have my first part, which was my hook, my second part, which is my 3 topics, and who can remember what's the last part of our introduction paragraph? It's our closing statement. So we need a closing statement that's going to wrap up our introduction paragraph before transitioning our reader into our first body paragraph. So again, we want to keep that controlling idea, keep that prompt in mind of the 4th of July, and let's close out our introduction. So I could say something like, people all across this country still celebrate July 4th because they feel blessed that America is a free country. And you'll notice that I wrote my closing statement in green. So looking at our introduction paragraph, we can clearly tell that we have 3 parts of our introduction paragraph. We have our hook in red, our 3 topics in blue, and our closing statement in green. So let's go ahead and read it to make sure that it all flows and all goes together. How much do you really know about the 4th of July? On the 4th of July, we honor America's freedom, have extravagant celebrations, and do fun outdoor activities. People all across this country still celebrate July 4th because they feel blessed that America is a free country. Now, my reader knows exactly what they're going to read about in my informative essay. Now, I'm going to give you a chance to try. going to be your turn to show what you know. So what you're going to do is take out the passage set and the plan that we created on African American leaders. This was our African American leaders ITC outline. So go ahead and take that out now. And then we're together going to create a introduction paragraph based on this ITC outline. So I'll give you a second. Go ahead, grab your materials, and let me know when you're ready to get started. Okay, let's do it. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we write our introduction paragraph, let's review our ITC outline. We have our introduction and we have our conclusion about African American leaders. We have 3 topics that we need to make sure that we include in our introduction paragraph. We have slavery, Sojourner Truth, and Harriet Tubman. So those are the 3 things that we need to make sure that we list in our 3 topics sentence as part of our introduction paragraph. So let's go ahead and put it all together. All right. So who can recall what is the first part of our introduction paragraph? I'm going to give you a second. I want you to think about it. Remember, we have 3 important components that make up our introduction paragraph. What's the very first one? If you said a hook, you're absolutely correct. We first have to hook our reader. We have to grab his or her attention and get them ready to read our essay. So think about what ways we can hook our reader. We could restate the prompt. We could ask a question. We could make a statement. What do you want to do for your introduction paragraph in response to this prompt? I think I'm just simply going to make a statement. So I'm going to start by saying something like, slavery used to take place in the southeastern states where farmers needed lots of help on their plantations. Now, for this hook, I have also mentioned one of my topics, and that topic was slavery. So I've mentioned slavery in addition to making a statement using some information from my articles. Now, this is not word for word, and that's okay. This is another way that we can structure our introduction paragraph. Now, what's the second important part of my introduction paragraph? Am I going to put a closing statement here? No, I still have to list my other topics. So I need a topics sentence. So again, I'm going to write my topics in blue. And I need to make sure that I'm mentioning my topics that were listed in my ITC outline. And those topics were slavery, Sojourner Truth, and Harriet Tubman. So let's put that into a sentence. This was a time when slavery was common in the South and African American leaders like Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman were trying to abolish slavery. Now, I have again mentioned my three topics: slavery, Sojourner Truth, and Harriet Tubman. Now we have the two parts of our introduction essay, and we have one more, and that is our closing statement. So we want to make a closing statement here that's going to wrap up our introduction before transitioning our reader into our first body paragraph. So we could simply make a statement like, this was a difficult time for many African Americans. And now we have all parts of our introduction paragraph. We have our hook, we have our three topics, and we have our closing statement. Let's read it to make sure that we have our controlling idea and that our three topics are nice and clear. Slavery used to take place in the southeastern states where farmers needed lots of help on their plantations. This was a time when slavery was common in the South, and African American leaders like Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman were trying to abolish slavery. This was a difficult time for many African Americans. I think it sounds great, and I also think that our reader has a great idea and understanding of what they're going to read throughout our essay. So now, let's challenge you. What I'd like for you to do is go ahead and take out your, sorry about that, just a second. There we go. What I'd like for you to do is take out your vitamins and being a healthy and fit kid. That was something we worked on the other day. You had a passage set, and you also had a plan that you worked through to create. Now, on that passage set, we created the plan that looks like this. It has Fit Kid as our introduction and our conclusion, and it also has our three topics: vitamins, exercise, and diet. And we also have those A and B subtopics. Now, before I release you to try one on your own, do we ever include our A and our B subtopics in our introduction paragraph? No, we don't. This is kind of like a secret. It's going to be a surprise for our reader. They're going to find these examples and details throughout the rest of our essay. For our introduction, we're just giving them the basic three main topics that they're going to read about, and they'll see the surprise later. So go ahead, pause the video, grab your materials on vitamins and being fit. You'll need your passage sets, and you will need your ITC outline that we created the other day. And I'll see you back in a few. Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to go ahead and grab your materials. What you're going to do is use your ITC outline on being a fit kid. You're then going to put all of this information into an introduction paragraph. You're going to need to remember to include a hook, your 3 topics, and your closing statement. If you would like to use a different way to structure your introduction paragraph, you're welcome to do so. Just make sure that you have your controlling idea, which is responding to your prompt, and that you have listed your 3 topics. So go ahead, pause the video, take a few minutes to write your introduction paragraph, and when you're finished, we'll meet back together and you'll have the opportunity to self-assess, reflect, and revise on your work. I'll see you guys in a few. All right, welcome back. How did you guys do? I'm sure you did wonderful. What I'd like to do now is take a few minutes to self-assess the work that you've done. What you'll need are some coloring utensils. Highlighters would be great. If you don't have highlighters, you can use markers, colored pencils, crayons, something that you have helpful, useful materials for yourself. Now, I've chosen these 3 colors to use, yellow, green, and blue. If you don't have those 3 colors, please choose 3 colors of your choice. If you're not using highlighters, all we ask is that you don't go through your words, rather just underline, because we still want to be able to read your words. If you're using highlighters, you're fine to go ahead and highlight your words. So what I'd like for you to do is self-assess your introduction paragraph. Using your highlighters, I want you to go through and follow the key that's listed on your screen. If you have a hook, some way that you've grabbed your reader's attention, I'd like for you to identify that by highlighting it in yellow. Then I'd like for you to look at your 3 topics sentence. Go ahead and highlight that in green. And lastly, you're going to highlight your closing statement in blue. Now, if you're missing a piece, that's okay. Now's not the time to add it. We'll do that when it's time to revise. Now, after you've self-assessed, I'd like for you to reflect on the work that you've done today. I'd like for you to ask yourself, what did I do well? Maybe you really hooked your reader. You made a really great statement and you feel really confident that your reader is ready to read your essay. What did I forget? Maybe I forgot to include my 3 topics. Or, what can I do better? Maybe your closing statement you don't feel very confident in. Maybe that's something that you can work on better next time. Now, after you reflect, it's now your chance to revise. So starting at the top of your list and working your way down, I'd like for you to add something that you may have forgotten. Did you make a mistake? No big deal. Now's your chance to fix it. Lastly, check for your capitalization, your spelling, and your clarity. Make sure that we also have that controlling idea. And lastly, did you remember everything, all parts of your introduction paragraph? Awesome job. Maybe you can try to go back and change a word. Maybe add a detail or some type of describing word to really make it more interesting for your reader. Now, after you've revised your work today, I'd like for you to remember one thing. It's okay to not know. It's not okay to not try. And you guys have been working really hard, and I'm really excited to see what's to come. I'll see you guys next time.